the rosters are pretty similar. And I think both coaches have won a Super Bowl. But the funny thing about the NFL, I said this last night about New England. New England beat Cincinnati in the first week of the season. Well, the first week of the NFL season, the last 3 years, you've had a huge upset in week one. Don't make anything of it. New England's bad. They're awful. And Cincinnati should have beaten in Kansas City the Chiefs. So Cincinnati's 0-2, but they're fine. New England's unwatchable. I mean, actually, that should have been a beautiful game to watch last night, but it was really boring because New England is so bad. So if the Dallas Cowboys beat Lamar Jackson, and we know Lamar Jackson is virtually unbeatable when he faces the NFC. He's 20-1. Better winning percentage than Mahomes. He's 20-1. So if the Cowboys come out and win this game and they're at home, then we can look at their season and go, well, they blasted Cleveland and they beat Baltimore. It happens. Teams get blown out. And it does. Last year, the Chiefs got blown out by the Broncos, and they won the Super Bowl, 24-9. San Francisco got crushed a couple of times, once by the Bengals. The Lions got shredded by the Ravens, 38-6, and we think Detroit's pretty good. It happened. Tom Brady had bad week 6s, week 8. It happens. So if they go out and beat the Ravens, and I still think the Ravens may not make the playoffs, but it's a good team. It's a great coach. It's a great quarterback, great left tackle. I like their weapons finally, great safety, great center. They got some good players. And if Dallas wins, regardless if it's overtime, it's close, it's a situational, whatever, then you could look at New Orleans and go, yeah, it's a one-off. It happens. So, but I do think this game is important. And the reason it's important is Dallas did not get a friendly schedule. So we looked at their schedule and we thought, oh, they should beat Cleveland, New Orleans. The Baltimore will be the first tough game. But after this, now you look at yourself and you go, New York's a pushover. Well, New York's offensive line's playing really well, and the Cowboys' defensive line, according to PFF, is awful. So that could be a little closer than you think. There's a lot of Detroit, San Francisco, Atlanta, Philadelphia, Houston, Cincinnati. There's a lot of tough games for Dallas in their schedule. So this is like a big game. Okay, so was the Saints a one-off? And it happens. You just get blown out. Something sneaks up on you. You're not ready for it. I mean, New Orleans, we didn't know much. I mean, did I talk once in the offseason? Did J-Mac talk once about Clint Kubiak? No, it's just like, oh, they're really good suddenly. Houston snuck up on us last year. Saints snuck up on us. Here was Micah Parsons on trying to slow down Lamar Jackson in the Ravens' run game.
Toughness. Step up. There ain't no other choice. Derrick Henry's going to come downhill whether or not Sunday night. So it's not like a matter of, are you going to stop it? Is you going to do it or not? I know I'm ready for the matchup.
By the way, I want to go back to the top of the show on Aaron Rodgers. And because, listen, again, if New England Colts, so forget the results. When it comes to the Bears, I just want to see progress offensively. I just want some progress. They have no run game so far. No run game, 28th in the league. They're last in passing yards. Their offensive line was ranked 19th PFF. It's like having kids. I've lowered my expectations. At first, I thought they could be president. Then I'm hoping for employment, and now I'm just keeping them alive at this point. I'm just looking for something, a plan. It looks like they've practiced a semblance of a run game. The Colts don't have much of a run defense. And DeForest Buckner's out, their best defensive lineman. So my take is, if I am Chicago, go back to the basics. Let's formalize a run game. Let's give some direction to the offense, because right now it looks like intramural football. I'm just watching Caleb Williams run around. You can see the talent. He got a power arm. He's an unbelievable athlete. He's got a power arm. This is not like Anthony Richardson of the Colts, who can't make 5-yard passes out in the flat. He's slinging them into the first row. Greg Cosell was on yesterday. He talked about the good, the bad, the ugly with Caleb Williams.
There's a significant difference, which I think a lot of people are unclear about, between leaving the pocket and making plays with your legs outside the pocket and moving within the pocket. Those are two totally different things. That is an area that Caleb Williams needs to get better at. We know he can be great getting out of the pocket, and one thing that he has to stop doing in the NFL is retreating backwards. You can't retreat backwards in the NFL. There may be one quarterback I've ever seen that can do that, and that's Lamar Jackson. But you can't play that way. So he has to learn to move within the pocket to sort of find a quiet space in which to deliver the football. Because I'll tell you what, the ball comes out of his hand beautifully.
Yeah, this is not an Anthony Richardson thing where you're not sure he's ever going to complete 50% of his throws. You can see the talent. It's very similar to me that Josh Allen came into this league before Stephon Diggs. It was like year 2. If you go to Josh Allen's numbers before Stephon Diggs got there, if you go to those numbers, he had 20 touchdown passes. That was it. Now, he had 9 rushing touchdowns, and they won 10 games, but he was scrapping. I mean, he was completing in the 58, 59%. That's what Josh Allen was doing, and that was with Brian Daboll before he got Stephon Diggs. So Keenan Allen has not played. Keenan Allen's a great situational third down receiver. DJ Moore can go deep, but Keenan Allen's your veteran piece, your big receiver, big target guy. So there's stuff here. There's other young quarterbacks, Bryce Young. I don't see the stuff. I just don't see it. Or there's Bo Nix where there's talent, but there's limitations. Caleb's got everything. They got to give him a run game. They got to look like something. Right now it's intramural football. So Dallas, Baltimore. So this is a game, I think I'm going to take Lamar over Dak. Because listen, again, if New England loses to Cincinnati in week 1, we would have gone into last night's game going, it's going to be ugly. But they didn't. And then we watched Cincinnati last week outplay the Chiefs, and we're like, hey, New England took Seattle to overtime. They beat Cincinnati. And then it's week 3, week 4, week 5. The longer the NFL season goes, the truth comes out. And so New England's bad. But I did think, and I've been, from the beginning off season, I said the Jets are a 9 and 10 win team. They're not a 12, 13, 14 win team. I just don't think they have the depth offensively. I don't love their offensive coordinator, and now they got banged up injuries. But I did think the best part of this game as a Jets fan is Aaron moved. You've got to move in this league. I'm showing this to our TV audience. And again, I'm not asking for 37-yard runs, but can you get flushed out? Here's Aaron. He's flushed out. It's a big part of it. If you go to playoff games, it's amazing how often the game changes off script. Mahomes wins a Super Bowl on a bad leg. He has a 40-yard scramble. That's the Super Bowl. And so you don't have to be Lamar Jackson. In fact, I would argue if you're too gifted, you'll be prone to run more than you probably should. But you got to move. I said this about Kirk Cousins on Monday Night Football. Kirk's never been a mover. But he moved in the pocket against the Eagles. I felt like first week against the Steelers, you're like, dude, he's just catching the snap, planting, and throwing. He doesn't want to move. 5-6 more days of practice, rehabbing. It's like, oh, okay, that looks like the old Kirk, or closer to the old Kirk. So Aaron in the first couple of weeks, my big knock was he's playing within a 3-4 foot radius. Like you can't beat the good team, especially in the AFC. You're not beating a Burrow, a Lamar, a Herbert, a Mahomes. Those guys are all moving. C.J. Stroud moves. C.J. Stroud's not a runner, but he can move. Aaron last night, I thought, like Green Bay Aaron. He doesn't run. When he first came into the league, his first 7, 8, 9 years, now he ran and scrambled forward for yards. I just need a guy that buys time. And I thought Aaron last night, my take was, oh, this is good. He's getting flushed out. Tom Brady's the outlier and the exception. Well, Brady, Belichick, Brady, Gronk, best quarterback of all time. Okay, that's total exception. Smartest guy that's ever taken a snap, pre-snap genius, manipulated teams more than they could manipulate him, had seen everything, played forever, knew every DC, every defense, every coverage. That's not Aaron. He needs to move. Somewhat move. And I thought last night, I'm like, okay, all right, he's out of the little box. And that's good. And I don't want to be cynical on the Jets because the bar is so low for New York football quarterback play since Eli Manning retired. Let's just celebrate that it was fun. Fireman Ed, fling that hat into the crowd, have a good time. I get it. I think the margins are very thin on this team. I think of a Breece Hall or a Garrett Wilson. I mean, think about this week. Kittle's not going to play. Debo's not going to play. McCaffrey's not going to play. They're still favored by a touchdown. That's the Super Bowl teams. Tyreek Hill leaves the Chiefs. They went back-to-back Super Bowls. The margins for Kansas City are not thin. Buffalo without Stephon Diggs looks really, really good. Joe Burrow without T. Higgins went to Kansas City Arrowhead. Should have won the game. That's not the Jets. If Garrett Wilson doesn't play, there is no receiver, including Mike Williams, that scares anybody on that team. If Breece Hall goes down, margins are thin. The rookie running back from Wisconsin's a baller. He's a big, thick kid. He's not bursting, breaking 60-yard runs like Breece Hall. So the Jets' margins are very thin. San Francisco's aren't. Right? Kansas City's aren't. Cincinnati can win without T. Higgins. In fact, they did last year. They won with a backup quarterback last year. Jake Browning had a winning record last year for Cincinnati. So let's remember, the Jets are still 5 days, just 5 days away from escaping Will Levis. Thank God Will Levis turned it over. You're 5 days from that. That's not cynicism. I'm just trying to be honest. 5 days ago, you were sitting on your couch. You were like Tark. You had that towel in your mouth. You were like, can we get past Will Levis 5 days ago? Let's slow down a little here. Is that negative?
I'm just not going to address that. I'm sorry. Next question. Because I know that's a question thrown